This now tonight, if you were to look up what's one of the most watched series in the world, you'll find The Chosen.
What is probably the most challenging thing that you're dealing with right now?
The Crucifixion.
There are moments in filmmaking that go beyond the script, moments where the line between a performance and raw reality completely vanishes. On the set of The Chosen, a series that has touched millions of lives, the cast and crew came together to film the single most pivotal event in Christianity. They were professionals, seasoned actors, and technicians dedicated to their craft. But on this day, something different happened. You're about to hear the story of a scene so powerful, so overwhelmingly real, that it left no one with dry eyes. This is the story of a 21st century film set that became sacred ground, a place of shared, unscripted sorrow. This is the story of the scene that made the entire cast of The Chosen weep. Before a single tear even fell, the pressure was immense. The Chosen is much more than a television series. It has become a global phenomenon. Viewed hundreds of millions of times in over 175 countries, its crowd-funded roots have grown into one of the most watched series on the planet. Its success is built on a simple yet profound idea: to tell the story of Jesus through the eyes of those who knew him, to show the humanity within the divine. For 5 seasons, audiences have walked with these characters. They've laughed with them, celebrated with them, and felt their doubts and fears. That deep emotional connection is the show's superpower. But with Season 6, the story arrived at its most critical and daunting destination: the Crucifixion. The weight on the cast and crew was enormous. Director and creator Dallas Jenkins knew this was the moment everything had been building towards. He called Season 6 weighty, acknowledging the profound responsibility of authentically depicting the cornerstone of the Christian faith. He and the actors understood they weren't just making television, they were treading on holy ground. No one felt this more than Jonathan Roumie, the actor portraying Jesus. He has been open about the immense challenge, calling Season 6 his most difficult yet. In preparation, he described a process of intense self-sacrifice, both physical and spiritual. "It's brutal," he admitted, referring to the demands of portraying Christ's suffering. "I don't know anything else that could be more challenging to me as a performer." Roumie wasn't just preparing for a scene. He was preparing for an ordeal, one that required him to ask for prayers to simply get out of my own way and allow God to just continue to lead me forward. He clarified this wasn't about pressure, but a sacred responsibility. The entire team felt it. They had to get this right. The world was watching, and for millions this portrayal would shape their understanding of the most famous moment in Scripture. To capture the gravity of this story, the production undertook its most ambitious logistical challenge to date. They needed to build a world that felt not just real, but alive. A world the actors could inhabit so completely that their performances would become genuine reactions. This led them to create their version of Jerusalem across 2 continents. The first location is in the United States, on sprawling sets in Utah and Texas, where most of the series is filmed. These are not simple backdrops. They are fully immersive environments. The streets are filled with livestock, the markets bustle with period-accurate details, and the air is thick with the sights and sounds of the 1st century. It was here that the groundwork for the emotional journey of Season 5's Holy Week and the lead-up to the Passion was laid. But for the Crucifixion itself, for the Hill of Golgotha, Dallas Jenkins wanted something more. He needed an authenticity that sets and green screens could never fully provide. He wanted a real horizon, a landscape that carried its own history and weight. This quest led the production halfway across the world to Matera, Italy. Known as the City of Stones, Matera is a place that seems unstuck in time, its ancient architecture having served as the backdrop for other biblical epics like the Passion of the Christ. The choice was deliberate. Jenkins wanted to immerse his cast in an environment that was not just visually authentic, but emotionally resonant. The shoot in Italy was grueling, with the crew battling language barriers and intense heat while moving heavy equipment to remote hilltops. Jenkins described it as the most difficult, physically and logistically, that we have done. Yet every decision was driven by one goal: to create an environment so real that the story could unfold with raw, unvarnished honesty. They weren't just building a set, they were building a vessel to hold the immense sorrow that was to come. The day of the Crucifixion filming in Matera arrived not with the usual on-set hustle, but with a palpable sense of reverence. A quiet understanding passed through everyone present, from the main cast to the background extras and the crew. This was not just another day at work. As cameras prepared to roll on the dusty hillside, the atmosphere shifted. And then it happened. It wasn't a single moment, but a wave of emotion that crashed over the set. As the scene began, the carefully constructed barrier between fiction and reality crumbled. The actors, who had lived with these characters for years, were no longer just performing. They were mourning. A behind-the-scenes video that quickly went viral captured the raw, unscripted emotion. Elizabeth Tabish, who plays Mary Magdalene, was one of the first to be overcome. Watching the scene unfold, she was hit with what she later described as pure devastation. Her tears were not scripted. They were the real grief of watching a friend being executed. The video shows her weeping on camera and then continuing to weep off camera while being consoled by Dallas Jenkins. She wasn't alone. The video also shows Laura Silva, who plays Eden, and Amber Shauna Williams, who plays Tamar, completely overcome with emotion. This wasn't just acting. Dallas Jenkins confirmed it himself, stating, "Not all the tears were played out." He described the entire crew as truly living the biblical episode. The experience was so intense that he, the director, admitted to bursting into tears multiple times. At the end of the shoot, a visibly exhausted and emotional Jenkins was seen burying his face in his wife Amanda's shoulder, the weight of the day finally breaking him as well. One crew member noted that Elizabeth Tabish wasn't just acting, she was mourning. Another background actor, playing a Roman bystander, was seen physically shaking during a break, refusing water because it felt wrong. He said it felt like they were touching something we're not worthy of. The usual chatter between takes vanished, replaced by a sacred, heavy silence filled with prayer and an unbearable, shared grief. What began as a day of filming had turned into a spiritual experience. The film set had become holy ground. When the cameras finally stopped rolling, the emotion lingered. The experience left a deep mark on everyone involved, forcing them to confront the reality of the story they were telling in a deeply personal way. Elizabeth Tabish, still processing the day, articulated the source of her powerful grief. "It's just pure devastation to watch your friend be paraded through the streets and mocked and publicly executed," she explained through tears. "He never hurt anyone, you know. So there's a lot of grief." Having been with her character since the beginning and having drawn on her own past struggles with depression to connect with Mary's despair, the moment was intensely personal. Jonathan Roumie described the experience as a communion with Christ's suffering. He called the process heavy, humbling, and holy, words that echoed the sentiments of the entire crew. The physical agony was immense, but he explained that it was a necessary part of believably portraying the moment for an audience. Reflecting on the shoot, he stated plainly, "It's not something I would ever want to shoot again." This came after an already emotionally and spiritually draining Season 5, where he experienced unexplained physical pains and heart palpitations while filming The Last Supper, believing he was under spiritual attack. Dallas Jenkins had to balance this immense emotional weight with a sea of technical challenges. "I don't really have too much brain space or heart space to make this just all about a spiritual and emotional experience," he confessed. "We have an important job to do." Yet it was clear the moment transcended the technical. He later requested prayers for the team, acknowledging the spiritual burden they all carried, reflecting that being in that surrendered, desperate, humble state, was perhaps exactly where they needed to be to honor the story. The experience was a crucible that forged an even deeper bond between the cast and crew. It was more than a scene in a show. It was a shared memory, a sacred sorrow that confirmed the very heart of the Chosen's mission: to find the profound and relatable humanity within the divine story. As the world prepares for what will
$20 in his
undoubtedly
pocket.
be the
No
most
prospects,
powerful
no
season
job,
of
no certainty
The
about
Chosen.
tomorrow. Only a
Yet you
deepening
have
sense
the
that his
opportunity
life
to
was slipping
experience
through
the
his
story
fingers.
from the beginning.
In a city
You can
known for
watch
broken
every
dreams
previous
and crushed
season for
ambition,
free on the official
Jonathan
Chosen
Roumie
app.
had reached the edge.
We encourage you
He
to
stood at a
subscribe to this
precipice,
channel for
looking
more
down into the
behind-the-scenes
unknown,
content
wondering
and to
if
share
God
this
had
story
forgotten
with
about him.
others who have been
But what
touched
happened
by this
next would
incredible
not only
series.
change his life, it
The
would
tears
touch the
shed
hearts
on
of
that
millions
hillside in
across the
Matera
world.
were more than a
This is not
reaction
just a
to a
story about a
well-acted
struggling
scene.
actor.
They were
This
a
is about
testament to the
surrender.
power of
Before
authentic
The Chosen
storytelling
became a
and the
global
deep
phenomenon,
personal connection
watched by over
that the cast and
280
crew
million
have
people.
with this narrative.
Before Jonathan
The
Roumie became a
unscripted
household
moment of
name
weeping
among
wasn't
believers
a
and
breakdown.
skeptics alike,
It was a breakthrough.
he was just another actor
revealed
grinding
that
his way through the
The
brutal
Chosen
unpredictability
has become more than
of
just
Hollywood.
a job for those who make it.
Coming from
It
New
is a
York City,
ministry,
Jonathan
a passion,
started his career in
and a
voiceover
sacred
work
responsibility.
before transitioning into
This shared
commercials and
experience
theater.
of sorrow, this
The pursuit of
transformation
acting
of a
was
film
filled with
set
odd
into a
jobs,
sacred space,
catering,
is perhaps the
rideshare
ultimate
driving,
example
house
of what
painting,
makes this show so
anything to keep
profoundly
the lights
different.
on.
It
Yet,
is a story made
despite
by
the
people
hustle,
who believe in it,
success
for people who
remained
need it,
elusive.
and in that raw,
It wasn't
tearful
just a
moment
professional
of shared
drought.
humanity,
Jonathan
they
hit a spiritual
captured
and
the very
emotional wall.
essence of the story they
He
have
describes
set
a
out to
moment when
tell.
he had nothing